Good afternoon, Gavin. How are you going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. We finally got our little tech issues sorted here so we can hear each other loud and clear. That is fantastic.
Yeah, the wonders of technology.
I know, but there is usually a very simple solution. In this case, I don't think any of us had any idea what was happening, but doesn't matter. Here we are.
Yeah, well, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. You're my first interstate guest, so it's you can add that, or I can add that to my resume.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, fantastic. And look, I had a little giggle to myself here after watching the daily grind video. That looks like a really fun video to shoot.
It was a lot of fun. It was very, very messy, very sticky, and yeah, we did it all in one take though.
I could tell, yeah.
Yeah, so we had some dry rehearsals without the beer and coffee. That was actually beer and coffee
nice.
That was thrown on me. So we had some dry rehearsals, and then I just knew that we kind of only really had the one opportunity to do it right. Otherwise, I'd have to get a new shirt and wash my hair and clean myself up. So I just had to go for it. So it was hard keeping a straight face, but it was good fun.
Yeah, and I could see at some point, I think it was sort of towards the end, like it looked like you sort of almost choked on was it coffee or whatever they sort of throw in your mouth, and like almost God, you had like cornflakes and this stuck in your hair as well.
There was one stuck in my hair. Yeah, there was one of the practice takes I had because there was some like pills of like sort of paracetamol thrown at me. One of them got stuck in my glasses in one of the dry sort of practices. But yeah, one of the beer pours went down my back during the actual right at the end, and I sent a shiver up my spine. Like actually my back froze a bit right at the end of the song because it was so cold and I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, so I had to sort of I was a bit frozen, but it kind of added to the manicness of it, which was the whole aim of the thing. So I'm really happy with how it turned out, and the band members I think they had a bit of fun throwing things at me. So
yeah. Oh, so they're the ones throwing stuff at you.
Yeah, there was the director threw a little bit of stuff. Tom Roberts, he's a mate of mine. He's done a couple of film clips for me and my previous band. But yeah, Cameron, the bass player, and Simon, who's my brother, the drummer. They were the ones throwing all the stuff at me. So they did an excellent job because they had to choreograph from the different sides of the of the camera, and they were throwing. It was actually very scripted and rehearsed. So they were throwing things at poignant times and alternating so that there wasn't sort of too much going on or whatever. It was all sort of scripted in a way.
Fantastic, man! Like it's a great video, man. It's really entertaining to watch.
Yeah, thank you. But I think so too. Really happy with it.
Cool, man. Look, there's so much stuff I'd love to run through today, because obviously you've had it sounds like you had quite an extensive career over the last decade or so. Where should we start? Is there any, should we try and go back and see where you sort of like your musical influences start back in the early days, and maybe sort of try and work our way towards the present day?
Yeah. Start from the start. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So, Gavin Bowles' music career, how did that come about? Like back in the early days, how did you discover guitar and singing?
Well, there was always music in the house. Both my parents do play guitar, not professionally or anything, but they both had guitars. And then I expressed an interest in sort of early primary school. I think the first couple of memories of really loving music and being drawn to it were obviously things like the Wiggles. I think my first concert was a Wiggles concert at Springwood Civic Centre. And I thought that Murray, the Red Wiggle, because he played a Telecaster, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. He was the coolest guy ever. And I've since met him as an adult, and he's just the loveliest guy.
Oh, nice.
And actually a great guitarist. He plays in a few different bands these days. He's not in the Wiggles anymore. So I was very drawn to that. And then, as a kid, I was into sort of steam trains, Thomas the Tank Engine, obviously, things like that. And then, I liked steam trains, and my dad put on a VHS of something about the Australian steam trains or something. And there was an advert for like a live cold chisel concert film at the start, back when you put the VHS tape in and you have to either watch or fast forward through the adverts or the previews.
Yes. Good old times.
And I was just, and I was just, I've never seen, I was probably 4 or 5. I'd never seen anything like it. Like just, the lights and the sweat pouring off them and the crowd. And I just sort of went, what is that? And from there I listened to a lot of, sort of like cold chisel and Aussie rock, because my parents were into that. That's what they, listened to, and they're the kind of gigs they went to in their formative years. So then I just started to lap that up, go through their record collections and get into that sort of stuff.
Mm.
So that was sort of the first, kind of foray into music. But instantly I was just obsessed.
Cool, man. So what was it specifically about the guitar that sort of drew you towards that?
I think they just seem to be involved with it. My dad actually had a drum kit, and I think I sort of tinkered around on it. But I think there was something about the guitar that was sort of less restrictive, obviously, as far as in a rock band format goes. You have the most sort of freedom on stage to sort of move around and kind of maybe, interact with the audience or other band members. You're not on a seat or, like a keyboard player or a drummer. And just that all the guitarists I sort of heard initially were just also unique. And to make, in some regards, a fairly limited instrument sound, like it's coming from an individual person, I think is the kind of thing that I'm still really drawn to. I still am amazed, when you hear, just something, it could even be the simplest thing, because I, as a teenager, and still I'm a huge Green Day fan. And, even just playing the simplest chord structures, you can still hear that sound of Billy Joel, Green Day, and what an amazing thing.
Mm. Oh, it's definitely a much more social instrument than, say, a drum kit.
Well, you can't bring a drum kit to a campfire.
No, exactly. I use exactly the same analogy every now and then. When I'm talking to people about sort of playing music, because again, like. You can argue that again. You've probably heard all the good old drummer jokes about welcome to the musicians and the drummer, because it doesn't really produce any tones as such. But at the same time, you can't really go without the drummer either, man. But so back in the day when you started playing, at what level sort of did you bring it up to actually performing, sort of trying to join a band and writing music?
In late primary school, I started to play with a few friends and write some songs. We won a talent contest or something. I was probably 10 or 11. I think we played a Silverchair cover.
Nice.
And then Anthem for the year 2000, if I remember correctly. And then my friend Nathan played bass on a guitar, because none of us owned a bass. And then we started to just write some songs. And I think at that point I might have been writing for a few years, just, a lot of it was just carbon copying things that I listened to or that I liked. But I think it didn't take long for me to at least develop a style, not necessarily a style that lasted for long, but to get into a genre, I suppose. And it didn't take me long to get, as I said, really into bands like Green Day and The Living End, and Grinspoon, and just kind of writing things like that that were very high energy and a little punky, and I was a little attracted to things that were a bit off kilter as well, maybe a bit sarcastic or a bit weird or a bit tongue in cheek as well. I've always liked bands or artists that don't take themselves too seriously.
Yes.
So I'm always attracted to that sort of thing. So yeah, it was probably around that time, and that band, I think we only ever really played one gig apart from that talent show. We did practice a lot. We were called Sold Out, which we thought was really funny because all of our gigs would be sold. The poster would say Sold Out. But I think it didn't last for long. But it was a lot of fun, and I remember being very excited that it kind of all these people crammed into a room making noise and doing your thing. It's a really special feeling, and you kind of feel like a gang or something. It gives you a bit of swagger.
Yeah, absolutely. What age were you at here? What sort of year we're talking about?
I was about 11 or 12, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's a couple of years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
And so obviously the songs like Green Day, Grinspoon, and stuff is and Living End is a bit harder than the stuff you're playing at the moment. What sort of, or actually let's try and keep it back in the early days, because obviously if you were 11 there and you were playing sort of you're more rocky, more punky stuff. What happened thereafter? Because obviously if you're 11, still going into primary school and stuff, what was sort of the next progression there in regards to your musical development?
Well, the next progression was that I obviously went to high school and just met a whole new bunch of people, because my primary school was very small.
Yep.
There was only about just over 100 students or something at that primary school. And then obviously high school was, 10 times that or something. So suddenly there's this massive melting pot of people. And then there are music classrooms with drum kits and things in them. The primary school music stuff, we had like a school band, but it was like a brass woodwind sort of thing. So instantly I was just, surrounded by not heaps of people, but at least a few other people who played, guitar and bass and drums, and that were also into, similar styles of rock music. And it didn't take long for me to make friends with those people. And then I formed a band. Actually, after I saw Green Day on the American Idiot tour, I met a few people and been, sort of enjoying sort of, casual kind of, little jam sessions with people. But after I saw the American Idiot tour, which was obviously such a spectacle, and it was super tight. Like, it was a very concise show and very engaging. And I just remember walking away from that going, I have to start a band. So nice. I got a couple guys from school, and my brother Simon, as I said, there was a drum kit at home and he'd kind of tinkered around, and I said, do you want to play drums? He said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Because, he had rhythm. So he got behind the drum kit. Within 6 months, he was unstoppable. And, by that point, we'd written a few songs, and then we played a few sort of like school fete things. We had a couple of songs. We had a couple of decent covers that we were good at. And then that band was called Picture Perfect. And it ended up lasting for 13 years.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, and it started out as a 4-piece for about a year. And then both the drummer and the guitarist left. And then a friend of mine, Cameron, who I'd been sort of casually jamming with, who was actually a guitarist, I said, do you want to play bass? And he said, okay. So he bought a bass from Cash Converters. And and then we ended up being a power trio, which I loved because I love Green Day and I love The Living End and other bands like that. So then we were this power trio. So as the three of us, we were a band for 12 years. And Simon and Cameron are still, we still play together. They're in the Distractions, which is my backing band now, plus a keyboard player, Wesley. So, I've never stopped playing with them. Obviously I've done other things with other people, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it is always my motto.
For sure. I agree 100%. Again, if you, especially like in a band, it's so important to have some, like, to play with people you get along with. And obviously, like, hopefully it sounds like you and your brother get along. So it obviously, and again, super convenient that you guys sort of had each other in the early days. So you could actually jam a lot more at home.
That was a real blessing. Because he became a big part of the writing process, because I would write songs, and then take them to him, and then we would sort of maybe nut out structures, or the drum part would always play a really large part of the writing. And then it didn't take long till I would just be writing things with drum parts in mind, but I wouldn't have to tell him. He would just know what to do. We had this kind of you sort of start sort of connecting a bit more when you're jamming and playing a lot. And then very similar with Cameron as well. So it was always an interesting and sort of fun writing process, because I would just sort of chords and melody, take it to Simon, we'd make structure, and then take it to Cameron, and then he would sort of have some input for, or maybe we could do this with the chorus, or blah blah blah, and then he would put in these amazing bass parts, and then maybe at the end we'd be working on some vocal harmonies or something. So it was a really exciting process to from a song to start from a little place and end up turning into a big thing, and then eventually having it recorded with all the bells and whistles, and that's still something that I love about writing and recording as well. But that's the whole thing about sort of writing, being an original artist. There's so many interesting phases. Like you create the songs in infant stages, in the rehearsal room, then you record them, then you take them on the road and stuff. So it's so rewarding to sort of create songs that way. But I'm super curious to hear a bit more about Picture Perfect. Like how did everything evolve from there? Because if you've been playing for 12 years in that like as a power trio, you must have been some places. You must have played some shows. We did, yeah. I mean, obviously the first couple of years we were just in high school, so but we played anywhere and everywhere that we could. So we did a lot of underage band comp type things. We our mums drove us around the countryside before we could drive to all these terrible gigs. And then as soon as we were old enough, we were out playing pubs, and then putting on. Actually, a couple times in high school, we hired some local halls and sold tickets at school, or pre-sale tickets at school, and put together a few other local bands. Did things like that. So that sense of community was always played a big role, certainly for me, which there still is in the Blue Mountains, which is great. And we talk about that a bit more later. But that was a really good starting point. And then I think once we sort of honed our craft at all those high school things and played a couple of pubs, then we really started to try and hit up for support acts and play places in Sydney. And then we did 2 albums, one in high school and one just after high school, that were, one of them we actually self-produced, or Cameron did most of it, did an excellent job. And then another one was at like a home studio that a local guy had. And we got a tiny bit of local radio play off those, and they got thrown onto, Triple J Unearthed, and they got in the charts for a couple of weeks or something like that. Just those little boosts when we were really young were really good sort of starting points. And then after a couple of years of, doing all that kind of stuff, we decided to throw some money behind some recordings, and then made a single called Faceless Man. And then that was on an EP called Well Alright, which was about 2013, 2014. And then we just started touring pretty constantly from there.
Cool.
But before we started to go interstate, we played a lot, which we tried to play every place in Sydney that we could for a while there. We played the Annandale, we played a couple of places on Oxford Street. There was Brighton Up Bar, used to be a place called Spectrum. We played a couple of places in Glebe and Lewisham, and just everywhere that we could, really. And then we started to tour, and that opened up a lot for us. That was lots of fun. We always loved, going new places, and especially connecting with other musos and other bands in other areas and other states. And I'm still friends with loads of those people.
Yeah,
who we toured with. So that was probably the most rewarding part, I guess. But it's not the most glamorous, but for some reason I still just love chucking gear in a car and driving around the countryside. And
there is something beautiful about that.
Yeah. Even through all the, the truck stop food and the, living on Pringles and cans of Coke and stuff. It's still still fun.
It's a part of the charm for sure, man. But you mentioned sort of you were playing interstate. How do you set those gigs up? Was that something you did yourself, or did you have anyone like any promoters to help you connect?
No, we never had anyone do anything for us apart from a little bit of PR. So after some time, we had a mob called Footstomp, run by a guy called Graham Ashton. And he did a little bit of PR work for us, which is awesome. He got us played on Triple M, right. Triple J Unearthed Radio, and a couple of other little things. He did a lot of press for us, got us a couple of gigs in Brisbane because he was from Brisbane. But apart from that, we just did it ourselves. I would just connect with bands and venues in wherever it was, Melbourne and Brisbane, or even being a Sydney band, going to say Newcastle is like going interstate. So I just kind of troll through. At the time, there was still a fair few music magazines around, but also Facebook, and just see, the venues, and then look at the bands that were playing those venues and go, okay, well, they have our kind of, our sort of music. They have rock bands, and then I'd, call or email the venues, find out what they did, and then either they would recommend me some local bands, or I'd just, go through, Facebook or wherever to find local bands and connect with them. So the first place we ever went interstate was Melbourne, and actually one of the shows, I think the band actually spoke to us first. I think they heard of us for some reason, and they said, if you're ever coming to Melbourne, we'd love to do a show. And then we'd already been thinking about it. We said, yeah, great. So then we decided to book another show that weekend. And then we were there maybe every 6 months for
that's pretty
4 years or something like that. Yeah. And then I lived in Melbourne for a bit. So when I got there, I had all these muso friends that I'd met through the touring and everything. So, it was great.
So what made you move to Melbourne? What, was that just you, or did the other guys move with you?
No, that was just me. So, the early 2018. We'd been a band for 12, 13 years, and not anything to do with our love for each other or even playing music together. We were just tired.
Right.
And, we all have other lives and other things to focus on creatively or, professionally. So it just felt like a good time to, at least take a little break. And then myself and my wife, or now wife, we decided to move to Melbourne just because we had one of my best friends move there. And as I said, I already knew a lot of other people. I wanted to really immerse myself in the music culture as well, and just a change of pace, because we were living in Western Sydney, and it has its charms. But we really wanted to adopt the city life, and we were just a bit more attracted to the city of Melbourne than the city of Sydney. It is a little cheaper, rent wise and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I also wanted to experience the music culture there, and I already had a few ins with some friends in some venues. So it was just a change of pace. I just wanted to, go there and experience something new, and really glad that we did, because it was a lot of fun. It's a great city, and I've got lots of great friends there, and I met loads of amazing musicians there, who I'm still friends with, because I'm back in the Blue Mountains now. But it's just a great city, no matter what genre as well. That's the thing I really like about the scene there, is that there is at least a venue or more than one, really, for any sort of genre of music. There's and an audience for it as well, which is important. Yeah.
So when you sort of decided to take a hiatus with the Picture Perfect, was that because some of you wanted to, as you said, like maybe focus more on their career, and maybe not being entirely on the same page in regards to taking the band forward? Was that one of the main reasons?
Yeah, I think it certainly started to get harder to book tours and to book studio time and things like that, because now we're juggling with jobs and sort of social lives and other commitments. My brother Simon's also now in another band. They're called Halcyon Rain. They're like a prog metal band, and they're amazing.
Wicked.
And so, yeah, they started to record and gig more around that time as well. It's not one particular thing that made it more difficult. It's just, just in comparison to, say, when we were all living at home with our parents or something, it was just so much harder to, to suddenly, we were adulting, and we were trying to do everything at once. And the reality is that it costs a lot of money to be touring all the time and to be recording all the time and doing film clips. And I guess there were just a couple of things that made us think, maybe we should pump on the brakes and just hang out and just, I think another thing that's important is when you're in a band, especially as you say, when you're friends or siblings, you have to try and remember to just enjoy each other's company as well.
Absolutely.
Because you do sort of fall into a trap of maybe never talking about anything but, the band or or music or related things. And not that we ever did, but I was always very mindful of that because I love Simon and I love Cameron, and I didn't want us to get stuck in, sort of being just, we only hang out when it's a band related thing.
Yeah.
So I think pumping on the brakes and I think maybe creatively I was just a little bit done with where we were heading, because we had changed our sound a lot. As I said previously, when we started was the power trio, Green Day, Living End thing, but there were so many influences that snuck in there over the years. We were all big Midnight Oil fans, especially their early stuff, which was quite sort of like surf rock, kind of surf punk sort of stuff. That definitely got in there. And then, we're all fans of Queens of the Stone Age and Arctic Monkeys and the Black Keys and other sort of, alternative stuff and stuff that was a bit more groovy maybe than sort of straightforward punky. Mm-hmm. And, we had a great sound and a tight set, but, I think creatively it's always good to challenge yourself and do other things. And sometimes to do so, you have to take a little break. So yeah, there were a couple of reasons why we decided to sort of call it a day in a sense. But not for any sort of bad reasons or anything like that. But
was there ever any sort of like bigger ambitions or bigger goals to try and achieve, or did you most of the time was that just having the band as a side project next to your adult life, as you mentioned as well?
I think it was always something that crossed my mind, because as far as careers go, I've been a professional musician with the band and outside of the band for a number of years now, doing solo things and, doing a lot of covers, sets. Pre-COVID, I was full-time with playing, RSLs and pubs and things like that, just doing a one-man show of predominantly covers. And that's, how I sort of earn my keep. But the other guys, Cameron works in IT and Simon last year finished a degree in chemistry, and now he works in a research lab. So they have, they have careers that are separate from music, and their love and passion for music is huge, which almost makes it harder for them because they are juggling way more than I am. But in terms of the band, look, it definitely crossed our minds, and I think that we probably could have really, really pushed and toured even harder and, put more sort of money, time and effort into it. But I think we wanted to keep our sanity a little bit, because I've read or heard and talked to, bands that have, sort of had, varying levels of success in the Australian music industry. And it's not an easy industry. We have a pretty small industry and there's not a lot of opportunities to make money. There's opportunities to, be on festival circuits and to be on radio and all that kind of thing. But there really is only kind of a one or two sort of tiers of I am a musician making money sort of thing. I think the guitarist from Violent Soho, the day that they were nominated for an ARIA, he went for a job at his local McDonald's or something. That's the they're the kind of stories you hear about the Australian music industry. And it would have been really nice to push and do more, but I think just having other professional things involved and maybe, in all honesty, just not wanting to live in a van and eating 2-minute noodles is sometimes a motivation, because I've got friends who do that, and I know lots of people who do that, and they're really happy doing it. But I know that I wouldn't be, because for me, I'm really pushed by the creative elements, and I love playing live and I love playing with people. And, having lots of Spotify listeners and lots of views and things like that is great, but it's not the reason that I do it. And I'm not saying that's the reason that some people do it, though it is for some, I guess. But I think it's just very easy to get caught up in the popularity aspect of it, and to get, you know, in the crowds of, well, you know, whatever they may be. You know, the first one that springs to mind is sort of the sort of Triple J kind of crowd, because, you know, what gets played on their radio is often what affects a lot of playlists and festival lineups and stuff. But the reality is that the artists that are in those circles have really worked their butts off, and probably sacrificed a lot to be in those areas where they become sustained by their career. But I guess it's sometimes it's a choice, and I think sometimes people are just halfway there and they go, "Oh, hey, I'm here," you know. And I think we sort of chose the former. I think we thought, what road are we going down? Which road do we want to be going down? Which in some regards, you know, I think we should be thankful for, because sometimes people get a song that just gets picked up and then they go, "Oh, hey, I don't want to be a big deal. I just made a song that I like," you know. So I think it is sort of a blessing to have thought about it.
Yeah, it's probably very important to sort of to find out what you want from it, and if you do want something from it, how much do you want it? So again, like I'm curious. Yeah. So I'm curious to hear about sort of like your reasons, because you said like other people had their reasons, but what is it that drives you? What is your why?
Look, for a little while, I think I didn't know, and especially after the band was on a roll with touring and writing and doing film clips and stuff. It's all great, but if you don't take time to, you know, stop and breathe, you're not really sure why you're doing it, and you know, especially in the industry, you kind of have to steamroll a bit. You know, you want to be releasing a single every couple of months, and you want to, you know, you always want to be posting, and you know, it's within your best interest to always be doing something. Yeah. But I am very much driven by the creative aspects. But I think sometimes you need space to do that. And I think the couple of times during the band that we had, you know, maybe a couple of months off after a tour, there was a particular time when we were sort of forced to take some time off due to some sort of personal matters. It really gave us time to reflect, and that's when I started to write some different stuff, that also wasn't specifically for the band as well, okay. Which I probably hadn't done really, you know, ever since I'd started it. And that opened up, you know, ideas of, well, what if I, you know, have a little solo thing on the side where I can play some other material, or not that I felt restricted by the band, but everyone in the band has to like the material, and it has to be, you know, yep. You know, if you're a rock band, you know, you can't suddenly start playing, you know, 70s funk or something, you know. So, not that any of us would have had an objection to that. But yeah, I think there was just other possibilities. And so I'd say, yeah, just really just driven by the creative aspects of it. And then when you take a bit of time to stop and breathe, that's also when I find I start listening to different music. as well. Because I've had a lot of questions about COVID and have you been writing lots and recording lots and doing this and doing that? And, I do have a day job. I work in a bottle shop, which, goes hand in hand with being a musician, funnily enough. But apart from working, I've been doing a little bit of, I'm finishing off my album because we're in my home studio, by the way, which is where I've been recording the album. I have been doing that and a little bit of writing, but during this, because I have had a lot of time off because, hey, I'm not gigging. I've been listening to loads and loads of music, lots of bands that I've never heard before. Be it current bands or be it, old school bands. I've been listening to The Jam and The Pretenders and bands that I've never sort of delved into before. So I think that's a really important thing as well. And that has, given me new creative ideas. So that's something that's important to me, I think.
Look, I've got so many sort of side questions to that. So I'll see if I can sort of recap of some of them. So first off, I'm curious to hear a little bit about your home studio and your recording process. So, the songs and the singles that you've released so far, how have you recorded them yourself at the studio?
Yeah. All the drums were actually done first, last year. So Simon and I actually did all the demos when I was living in Melbourne, and then I sent them to him, and he sent me all his ideas of the drum tracks. And like I was saying before, he was writing the drum tracks that were in my head that I didn't even know were there. We have that kind of that kind of musical relationship. So then as soon as I moved back, we got stuck straight into recording all the drum tracks. We did them over a couple of weekends, which is about 10 songs. So we ripped through it, and then I started piecing together the rest of the album. Here since then. I mean the process is. It's unfortunately taken a bit longer than I would have liked, but that's probably due in part to me being a little lazy and getting distracted with with other things, with life.
Bottle shop,
but a little bit. COVID's been a busy time for that, but I won't talk too much about that. I'm just kind of getting distracted and starting new projects and doing other things. But funnily enough, when I am recording, I do it pretty quickly, and I like it to feel more like a gig. Because some of the times that the band recorded, we always recorded pretty quickly. But I'm not a fan of doing 1,000 takes and spending ages on things that don't necessarily need to be perfect. That's kind of my philosophy. And, I sometimes I'll just, I'll whatever, have dinner and wash up, and then, just walk in the studio and, have a beer and go, okay, I'm going to record some guitar tracks tonight. And then I'll be done within a few hours, and, and then I'll mix it a bit later. It's all pretty casual. But I do like it to have that sort of live element, so I've got some colored, cans, lights that I use for gigs in here. So sometimes I make it feel like it's a gig. And
that's awesome.
And I like that. Look, I've been turning the studio into a place to kind of hang out as well. When we've had a couple of band rehearsals over the last couple of months, one of which we did like a live session video, which you've seen.
Yep. We'll be finishing off listening to one of the songs there.
Yeah. So I really kind of worked, because this is an add-on to the house that we live in, and it was just kind of a spare room. So I've been, working on doing some soundproofing things. I've put my record player in here, and Simon gave me his old drum kit. I've got a keyboard, I've got amps. So I've just been really working on this being a creative space, but also a space just to hang out and you know.
That is so cool, man.
And just to
makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Part of that is trying not to have it too cluttered, which is always an issue when you've got lots of stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I'm working on. But I love recording at home, and I love self-producing. It's opened up more for me creatively, I think, which I love and I'm thankful.
And so is that something? Is that self-taught, or is it something you've sort of had to? Well, I suppose of course you had to learn it eventually. But is it something that have you had anyone sort of teaching you how to produce and mix? Because it's usually like it's such a endless craft in my opinion. And again, especially like I love what you're saying that in regards to you're not someone who wants to do 10 takes and sort of over complicate stuff. So in regards to sort of fine tuning stuff and all that, is like how did you learn that?
It really was on the fly because I made my first solo EP at the tail end of 2017, and I released it early 2018, which was just 4 tracks. And Simon played drums, but I played everything else, and I mixed it all and did it. And I wasn't living here at the time. I actually did it. I did it under my parents' house,
right,
which is where we used to rehearse when we were growing up. But I didn't at the time. I didn't have a space to. I didn't have a space to make loads of noise. So I did it all under their house, except I did all the vocals in my bathroom, actually.
In your bathroom?
For that EP, yeah. So, and I basically just did it to see how I could go about it, because at that time the band was taking a bit of a break from doing a big EP tour and a big EP release. And so we were just kind of chilling out because we were a little tired, and I had these songs that were not for the band. And then basically my wife Ellen just said, what are you doing with those solo songs? I said, I don't know. And she said, you should record them. I said, okay. So I just started to do it, and it was only 4 tracks, so it didn't take too long. And I just thought, well, I'll give it a go and I'll see how it sounds. And I surprised myself. As I said, I just underthought it. I just did it. I knew a little bit about, things to do with, frequencies and, what you want to be hearing, what you don't want to be hearing. I really just trust my ears, which some people probably think is a terrible idea. But I listen to so much music that I'm always listening for those kinds of things. I'll listen to artists or records and go, what a great drum sound, or what a terrible guitar tone, or there's too much reverb on that vocal or something. So I just notice those things. So, and I kind of feel like if you're the kind of person who notices those things, suddenly when you're producing your own stuff, you instantly have a really clear idea of what you want to hear. And that can be a really good thing when you're working with another producer, or a really bad thing, because I always found myself trying not to budge if a producer wanted to nudge it another way. And we work with some awesome producers, and their input is always great. And working with someone else has lots of benefits, but after a while I just kind of felt that I just knew what I wanted. So it was just kind of I'm still learning, and I think every producer and professional sound person in any regard would say the same thing. But I'm just still learning on the fly. But as I said, I just kind of trust my ears. I listen to it beside other things and think, oh, okay, well, it sounds pretty good. But when I listen to this, this other record, that, their vocals a bit brighter, so I should make mine a bit brighter, or even for some tracks, I've actually intentionally made things sound a bit more old school. I was listening to a lot of 70s Bowie, and his vocals sound a bit honky and a bit sort of there's kind of like a tunnely reverb or something. And I was thinking, that's cool. Or I listened to some rockabilly records because some of my songs have a bit of a rockabilly edge to them. So then I want them to have that twangy guitar or that kind of slap reverb on the vocal, which is not always going to be the best sounding thing, but if it fits with the song, then that's what you go for, I suppose.
But at the same time, again, like sometimes just trust your ears. Like it's your music. It's your again, like you don't have anyone else telling you what to do. So again, you ultimately call the shots. So I personally, I think that's a good thing because if I had someone else on the show tell me this, but if it sounds good, it is good. And that's he runs one of the local rock studios, has a lot of rock bands on, and he says, look, if it sounds good, it is good. And I really like that saying because it's so true. Like you can listen to a lot of different albums and they all sound great in their own way. You mentioned some old David Bowie and some rockabilly stuff. It's like, look, they all, everything can be different genres, but they're produced in different way, but they all sound good. As long as you have, so does your music, by the way, like, and your productions sound great. But again, it's obviously important to have influences, like to have something to, I like this sound, but I also like this sound, and then you come up with whatever works for you. So again, it's an important way of sort of learning and sort of having that reference point, I suppose, is a better way. So you can say you have these ones and you can experiment with that, using different reverbs and all that, as you mentioned yourself as well. But so in regards to sort of shaping your sound, and I think you mentioned that you recorded 10 songs, 10, but you won't. Yep.
10. The album will actually have 11. So one of them is just a solo song. It doesn't have the band behind it.
Okay. Yep. So at the moment you released a couple of singles. Are they all songs that are going to be on the album? So
they're all going to be. They're all going to be on the album. I've just sort of I've kind of been releasing songs as they're ready, but also releasing the songs that I think that I thought maybe that I just thought either had the catchiest choruses or whatever, but also that I thought conveyed something that I really wanted to say. The first single I released was actually just over a year ago. It's called Slave. And Slave was the first song that I wrote for this album. The song is kind of an autobiographical thing of me writing myself out of writer's block and getting myself out of a bit of a sort of existential funk that I was in at the time, after I just moved to Melbourne. And while it was exciting, after the dust settled, I'd kind of gone, I just left all my friends and family, in the mountains in Sydney and my band and my whatever, all my job prospects. I moved to this new city, and then I kind of got a bit freaked out. And then I was just feeling a bit stuck, and that song was the first thing that I wrote, and it kind of made me feel a bit better.
Nice.
And then from there, the songs just sort of kept coming. I turned around, I think, after about 8 months, and I had this album written. So Slave was I intentionally released that song first because it's the start of the journey. And then the Daily Grind, I just thought it's super fun to play live, and it conveys something that I really wanted to put out there, about just how terrible the the sort of casual working life, or whatever your daily grind is. Just how we all kind of get a bit stuck in it. And I actually wrote it on my way to. I was working 2 casual jobs in Melbourne because neither of them. I didn't earn enough money from either of them, so I worked 2 at the same time. So I worked 6 days a week. Oh
no.
Yeah, and so it was a bit of a crazy time. So I was really was living on a diet of beer and coffee, and I hurt my back. I was working at a bottle shop there, and we did deliveries in a little van, and I was just lifting boxes of wine and beer without thinking properly, and I really hurt my back. And then when I was working my other job, which is a bar job, when I got up and I was walking there, my back was killing me, and I got out my phone and I wrote the first couple of lines of Daily Grind, which is working hard just to break my back. A few late nights wake me up with a slap, and then the song just sort of came from there. But since then, when I've had other daily grinds, be it the other jobs that I've had since, or even the grind of gigging or whatever it is, you can just sort of get a bit caught up in what you're doing and going a bit mad or stir crazy, and you've always got to try and find ways to pump on the brakes. Sometimes the easy way is to to have a few beers at the end of every night, and then during the day all the caffeine hits. So I just thought people would relate to the song, and then the film clip idea just kind of backed it. And like I said before, I always liked artists that are a bit tongue in cheek and don't take themselves too seriously. So I definitely wanted that to come through in the song as well.
Again, I think that really struck me about your music in general is it's very easy to listen to, and it's like it has this sort of like commercial twist to it as well. Where do you sort of see your music sort of fitting into the to the current music scene or music industry?
Yeah, well, I've thought about that a bit lately, especially because of COVID. I had a thing come up on my Spotify which said, "Feeling sad? Listen to this stuff."
Your stuff?
I was like, no, not my stuff.
No.
But it was just recommending all these artists and playlists and albums for if you're feeling sad. And I was like, man, that's a real drag. That's a real bummer. That during a time like this, when a lot of people are facing adversity of all different kinds for different reasons, we should all be trying to look on the brighter side, and everyone's got something to be thankful for. And
yeah, absolutely.
And for me, music is always one of those things. And look, some people get different things out of music, and that's, totally fine. But for me, when I play gigs and people just go nuts, and you can see that they're just getting themselves out of their head and pushing the work week off and having a good time at a show, that makes me feel good. If I am doing my job right at a gig and people are getting into it and they don't even know the songs that, they don't even know my songs or whatever it is, but they're responding to that, then I feel like I've done my job really well. So, and I know that there's a big trend in music right now, I think especially in the Australian music scene, of people who are doing sort of, moody, kind of borderline depressing sort of stuff. And, I think singer-songwriters always tend to, sort of border on being very brooding, and, because if you're not in a band, then you can kind of convey these things with perhaps more vulnerability or emotion because you are a solo artist.
Yep.
But I think I've just noticed there's a trend recently. I did actually go to see one of my friends from Melbourne. His name's Skyscraper Stan. If you haven't heard his stuff, do it. He's incredible. And he's very much like me. In terms of, he's very tongue in cheek, he's very sarcastic, he's an incredible lyricist. He's just an incredible artist, and he's really funny. So he has some serious songs and some songs that really, really sort of hit you in the chest. But then, then he'll play a song about, how he gets too drunk to woo girls at a bar, and then he just makes a fool of himself, kind of thing. He's got this incredible way of making sort of being a loser charming kind of thing. And he played this gig, and then straight after him was this solo artist, and she had the most beautiful voice, and her songs were really nice, but it just brought the mood way, 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 way down. And for me, I just didn't dig it, because I came out tonight to have a good time. I'm paying $9 a beer, and after Stan doing his thing, which was really uplifting, and everyone had a smile on their face. Suddenly the room was kind of really sort of down, and
it changes the atmosphere a bit.
Yeah, that has its place, but I think there was just a crossing of worlds at that gig. But for me, I feel like my job is to try and uplift people, myself included. When I write a song like The Daily Grind, or when I'm playing a song like The Daily Grind, I'm also singing it to myself. You're always trying to prop yourself up at the same time. So that's always feels like my job, and it just feels great at a gig when when the room comes with you on that ride, and they,
absolutely,
because I get people thanking me, which is wild, and not for any other reason that I just they had a really good time, and I was there to aid that, or provide that, or what have you. So I feel like that's my kind of role with what I'm doing. So maybe some of the subject matter in some of my songs that are on this album, can sort of definitely have some weight to it emotionally, or what have you. Like I said, the song Slave, I really was quite depressed at the time, but if you listen to the song, it's about turning it around. And that's just what I like to do with my music. So, as opposed to where that fits in the current, sort of music scene. Look, I don't really know. I don't know if that's my place to comment, or if my thought has always been that, obviously you've got to put your music out there, but people will find your music if they want to hear it.
You reckon?
Look, it's a bit of a maybe it's a bit of a naive thing to say, but there's always an audience out there for your music, no matter what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And if I'm making upbeat stuff, then hopefully it'll reach the people who want to hear it. And I do have a responsibility to put myself out there, my music out there. But hey, that's why I'm talking to you, and that's why I made a film clip. And, whatever. Exactly.
And that's a whole like that. This is a conversation I love to have. In regards to what you can do to gain a bigger reach. Because again, I think you obviously have. I know this can be a pro and a con. Being a solo artist, but you call all the shots, but that at the same time also means all the responsibility is on you, unless of course you have, unless you have people sort of, helping you out. But in regards to the reach and people finding you, I definitely think a lot of responsibility comes down to how well you sort of promote yourself, how well you can, play the online game. Especially given, the way the world is looking at the moment with COVID and all that. Because gigs does, exist in a much smaller scale than what it did, say, a year ago. So, I think a lot of bands have a bit of an advantage now, because if you can invest the same amount of time as you could previously going out gigging, but you invest that on maybe sitting down and having a chat about how to how to brand yourself and how to market yourself. The internet is never closed. Everybody is always online. There's always someone somewhere. There's always an audience that wants to hear your music somewhere, but you need to find them. You need to, go out and engage with them. And yeah, absolutely. Anything works, whether it's talking to me, getting on a podcast and then using that to maybe find some people later down the track, or whether it is you making a video clip or recording some more songs, or maybe sitting down and, doing a couple of YouTube tutorials on Instagram marketing or YouTube marketing or Facebook ads or whatever it is. But in regards to sort of like the overall, because again, just coming back to the album, if you were to sort of brand the album, have you got any marketing strategies, anything you sort of lined up that, this is how I want to try and promote it moving forward? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I'm actually releasing another single in a couple of weeks' time.
Cool.
Which I'm yet to announce. So consider this a sort of a preview or whatever. And then the album, hopefully, I'm thinking November. Definitely before the end of the year. So yeah, I have definitely thought a lot about how I want to release the album and how I want to market the album, and especially because of the way that the album sounds and how the album artwork is and the name of the album, it all lends itself to be marketed in a certain way, if that makes sense. So that's definitely something that I've thought about. And yeah, look, I've been looking into certain marketing aspects of things and looking up stuff online and trying to make sense of that stuff, because I do have a tendency to try to ignore that stuff sometimes, because I do get a little,
it's overwhelming, man. It's
overwhelming or frustrated, which can turn into cynical. So I don't want to do that. But also just, I've been listening to a lot of, as I said, a lot of sort of old records, a lot of a genre I like to call power pop, which is like late 70s, early 80s, kind of like the Jam and the Buzzcocks and whatever, that kind of stuff. I'm actually starting a cover band with some mates of that of that era sort of stuff.
Yeah, cool.
But listening to that music sometimes makes me sort of wish that we had even forget about the fact that we can't gig right now. It just makes me wish we were sort of in that, that kind of era of that. It really was an economy of just gigging and creating and doing stuff. And that obviously there were magazines and there was radio and stuff, but there was a little bit, there was less to navigate through. Even when I was, promoting our high school band, back on MySpace or whatever in 2006 and 7 or whatever, it was weirdly easier, and because it was a much smaller pool at that point.
Yeah.
So, when we first got our stuff on Bandcamp, when we first got our stuff on SoundCloud, Triple J Unearthed, it was only a fraction of the content at that time on those platforms than there is now. And then, now you got things like Spotify and stuff. And, because whatever the question people always ask is, how do you get on the Spotify curated playlist? And the answer is basically good luck. So, and that's kind of the thing with the industry. But I guess my thing is, I would rather that we be a little bit more old school and try to create our own little communities. Because here in the Blue Mountains, there's a really great community of musicians who like to support each other, go to each other's gigs. And we share each other's film clips and songs and albums on Facebook or Instagram when they come out. And I'm happy to say I'm a part of that. Same with a lot of my friends in Melbourne. I did the same thing with them, and they still because I'm still friends with them, I still do that for them. They still do it for me. And I made a little. I'm actually going to make a new one, but I made a little Spotify playlist of artists that I'm friends with or that I've crossed paths with over the last couple of years, because we all kind of have a job to prop each other up, I feel,
Yeah.
So, we don't need to be promoting Taylor Swift because she's fine, but I should be promoting my friend Skyscraper Stan or some of my other mates who make great music, because you probably haven't heard of them. So I feel that's where a lot of those artists in those, especially in punk rock communities, they have always been based in community aspects. The local fanzines and small clubs and share just sharing basically. And I think that in an age of all this kind of stuff at the click of a button, and some people who are exceptions to the rule, but unfortunately some people see other people get sort of instant success, overnight success, as it were, for chucking a song up somewhere. That I think that unfortunately does create a bit of an atmosphere for some people to think that they need to focus on themselves, if that makes sense. And of course you do. But this is a shared experience, and one of the things that I really liked when I moved to Melbourne, sort of it's this big hub of creativity, and there's loads of bands, and I'm friends with this band called The Records, who are a rockabilly trio, and they're incredible, and they've been at it for 10 years and stuff, and they're all sort of in their late 30s now, and they got jobs and kids, but they are so good, and they have toured so much. They tour overseas a lot, and I just remember them saying, it doesn't get any easier. And my shoulders kind of slumped, and I went, oh, well, it's nice to hear someone else say that, because we are all in this together. And as we say, sometimes looking at all this online stuff, it's a bit frustrating, or it's a bit overwhelming. And I think the thing we need to remember is that it's a shared experience. So we need to talk to each other, and we need to, help each other out. And I was thrown into doing a live stream back in April, and I had no idea what I was doing. And one of my mates had done one. So I messaged him and I said, can you please tell me how you did your live stream? Because it looked great and I don't know how to do mine. And, don't be afraid to ask for help. Because that's
good
really
advice.
important.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of my philosophy to do with that sort of stuff, because it's the same at a gig, right? If your guitar breaks, ask your mate to use his guitar. He's there.
Yeah.
So why should it be any different if we're online? Because we are more connected than ever before. So we should, and we have it at the drop of a hat. So we should, at our fingertips, we should be able to use it to help each other.
And actually that sentence, that specific sentence saying that, how connected we are at the moment. Why don't you think bands use that more to actually use your online presence a lot more than what you have in your local community? If you want to reach a big audience, if you want to monetize your business, and ultimately, having to give up your day job or your part-time job, use why don't bands try and see themselves as something that can be marketed online? Because you're absolutely right. It's like Spotify is Spotify, and that is probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon. But there's so many other ways to make a dollar. I'm not saying you're making anything on Spotify, because it's peanuts. But again, having
only Justin Bieber's making money on Spotify.
Yeah, and maybe Taylor Swift, as you mentioned. But there'd be so many other avenues if you are sort of thinking a little bit outside the box. And I think a lot of bands are probably more in that old school mindset that it's all about going out, gigging, playing the shows and stuff. And look, it's great to have a local community. The community in Perth is very, very strong as well. But unless you're happy to only play within the community and sort of and be the biggest star in the little pond, or a big fish in a small pond,
King of the town.
Exactly. Then, if it's going to be really, really difficult to make a living from that. So you probably have to sort of think a little bit outside the borders, or again think, look, what if I did up my game and say, look, like, you learn how to produce really good music, but that didn't come overnight. That was something where you had to sort of sit and do your grind on learning how to push the right buttons and add the right reverb and frequencies and all that. If you as a solo artist grabbed, your upcoming 11 song album here, and you're trying to say, look, I'm actually going to try and give this a full crack by trying to promote it online, find out where I have potential, like audiences who's going to appreciate my music, whether that's in Germany or whether that's in Arizona or whether that's in Brazil, I don't know. But, there'll be people out there that would resonate with your songs.
And that's really true. And you never know, because I remember the first proper single that the band released, I mentioned before, was called Faceless Man. One of and then you look at the stats of where it's being played, or I think at the time on iTunes where it was being bought, half of it was Russia. for no reason.
Yep.
No, we didn't. It just was there, and then I think same with some of the other stuff we were doing. It was played in the US or something like that, and and then I service my stuff to community radio, so I've been played all around the country. I actually was on ABC Darwin once because they had a segment called "What's On in Sydney," which shows how much is going on in Darwin. And they said, when are you coming to Darwin? And I said, I haven't really planned on it yet, but I'd love to, and I really would. I'd love to play all around the country. There's still loads of places I haven't been, but you just never know. So it was like, oh, we're being played on ABC in Darwin, and they want to talk to us. That's weird, but that that's it. The same thing has happened with huge artists as well. And not necessarily because they were pushing for it either. So, it's a really good point. I think you're right. A lot of us are stuck in old school stuff because that's what that's the story. That's what we're told. That's what's out there to look at. And I think maybe for some people, promoting yourself may be a bit of a self-indulgent thing, or people think that, because there are people now who are branding themselves to, whatever you might have thousands and thousands and thousands of Instagram followers, but you're not actually, they're not necessarily, creating stuff. They're just good at marketing, being themselves. And then you've got people who are creative and are releasing music and making art of varying forms and stuff, but they don't know how to promote themselves because maybe they, a lot of creative people have issues with that, always have. But I guess the thing, as you said before, is now it's on us.
It is 100%.
You can promote yourself for free. Back in the day, you might have had to, and I do currently and have before work with people who help service my music to radio and other things like that. But back in the day, there was no such thing as social media. It was like, well, you're going to have to get it on the radio and get yourself in a magazine, music magazine. So you'd have to find a manager or something like that. There were very few artists back in the day that didn't have someone helping them. But now you have people like, whoever, even someone like Billie Eilish, who had no one helping her and still pretty much doesn't, from what I understand. She makes music in her bedroom.
Yeah, she's got a brother. So her and her brother. Yeah. But on top of
basically
it.
Basically the two of them, they chucked up a song on SoundCloud, and then, and that was it. And then they were just, promoting themselves on just their own social media, and it went viral, so to speak. So I think that the thing that freaks people out is either that they will go viral or that they won't. I think there's maybe two types of people in that regard.
And again, it's a fun conversation again, because I don't think it's a matter of whether you're necessarily going to go viral or not, because chances are you're probably not. So,
exactly. but I think people are afraid to put themselves out there without getting something back, because the thing that we're kind of told right now is that, well, it's really easy to put yourself out there. There's all this stuff, right? Like, how can it not stick? Look at all this stuff that's at your disposal. And I think that's where I say it comes more back to the community aspect, because the first place to start for me is, well, what do you do when you put on a gig? You tell your friends. You don't tell strangers, and you ask them to come. And if we're doing it in a digital format, then it shouldn't be any different. Hey guys, I'm releasing a song, so do you mind saving it in your Spotify playlist? You know, do you mind liking my post or something? Do you mind sharing it? Because your friends are friends with people that you don't know. And then from there, it's I'm going to reference that scene in Wayne's World where he says, and they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and so on, and so on, and so on. And that's how it should start. And then from there, then you can, because that gives you confidence, because not everyone has confidence. And then you start looking into the online promotion stuff and the marketing side of things. But I think some people need a little boost first, because not everyone's a show off like me. You know, some people, you know, I'm a front man, so but you know, my ego's in check. It's all good. I know it's there. But some people are really good at creating art, but they have no idea how to put it out there. They may not even like performing it live. They, you know, there's plenty of incredibly talented people who are extremely introverted. And some of them have been the most famous people of all time and haven't been able to handle it very well. So I think what we're facing with now is that people are either really reluctant to try putting it out there, or they're too excited about it, and maybe they're forgetting to have fun in the process, or you know, as I said, ask for help or whatever.
Yep.
So that's my take on it, I suppose.
Because again, look, I would argue that if you actually had an online band, so say you had a band that weren't necessarily gigging or touring or anything, but you released your songs and you were really good at promoting it. You knew your game online. Like, it's the same thing, you know, say again, you had your coffee shop down in the corner, and everybody, like, you could make the best coffee in the world, but again, if people don't know about it, you need to tell the world. So if you're really, really good at branding yourself, and everybody wants to come and have a taste of that coffee or whatever your product is, if you can be really good at that, I think that would make a much bigger noise out there than it would be to sort of stick to your local community. Everybody has their reasons for doing what they're doing. I completely understand that. And yes, you're also right. Each artists are, you know, on a different confidence level or have their different reasons for doing it. Whether it is something they want to do as a hobby on the weekend, or whether it is something they have dreams of doing full time and, you know, quitting the day job and focusing 100% on the music. But I think if you are an original artist, if you are playing your own songs and you have that dream or ambition of taking it to become a full-time job, I think the online aspect is something you cannot overlook.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So in many ways, it is a matter of, you know, finding out and maybe even, you know, teaming up with someone that are good at it. The same way as you are teaming up with a producer to help making your songs better, or you're teaming up with like you have band members, you know, who are really who make you sound better because they are really good at what they're doing, and so on and so forth. But I think it's such an undervalued and overlooked part of the music business, especially this day and age, where, as you said earlier, everyone is connected. You have the whole world in your pocket all day.
Yeah, that's it. So I think, it's something that I'm definitely still navigating, learning. I definitely don't have heaps of answers for anyone, but I just know that you've got to be having fun while you're doing it, and you've got to be.
That's the most important.
And you've got to be just confident in that. That you love the song, you love the album, you want people to hear it, and it's okay. Like you can be nervous or something like that, or whatever. But I think that always comes first for me, and then I guess the thing that I'm the most concerned about is, definitely for myself, is that I don't want that other stuff to influence my creativity. It is, and that's probably something that I think a lot of other people think.
100%. I've heard that before.
I don't want to be, thinking about how to market this song while I'm writing it. I've definitely written songs where I've gone, I think this will be a song that people will like, as that it has potential to be commercial or something. And I think in the past I probably maybe have tried to write more songs like that. But I think the thing for me is that, funnily enough, now that I really don't care whether my songs sound commercial or not. As you said before, you actually found these new songs to have a commercial appeal, and they have they're popping, and that's probably just because of the music that I've grown up with and I listen to. But I think the funny thing is that now that I have kind of chilled out about it, my songs now, funnily enough, are actually a little bit sort of poppier than they used to be. So I think, you can kind of answer any sort of thing with, just chill out, I think. Yeah. It could be, if you're getting, worked up about the commercial aspect of this or that, or you don't want to affect your creativity, or you're worrying too much about how to market yourself or something about Spotify, I think the answer can always be chill out. That's what my wife's always telling me. And it works.
It does. It's something, again. I think another part of it as well. Like, obviously chill out, but also have, as you said, like, you got to have fun doing it. It doesn't matter what you do in life. If it's something you aren't enjoying, it's not going to last.
Look, when I'm recording in here, I'm having a ball. That I bought a new bass the other week. And I was really excited. So I got home and I did a little, it's on my YouTube and my Instagram. I did a little cover where I played every instrument. So I just did one take.
Yeah. I did see that one where you got the little four screens there.
Yeah. So it's an old I'm not a very good drummer, but I gave it a go. So it's an old 70s track called Teenage Kicks. It's one of my favorite songs to play. It only goes for 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So I just thought, I'm going to do this. And it was just me, but I had a ball. It was awesome. And then, but same when the guys were here and we did our little isolation sessions videos, it was just so much fun, and I wouldn't have, we only recorded 3 songs, but we rehearsed for 2 hours. The whole idea of getting together was not to create something to market. Like, I went, oh, that'd be a good idea. We should film our rehearsal. But the whole point of us being here was to enjoy it. We weren't rehearsing for a gig, obviously. But we rehearsed because, it was fun. And then, and that's got to be part of it. That's got to be, why you're doing it. The reason why there's so many famous bands out there that started in high school. I'm still playing with my high school band. Essentially, we're in a slightly we've got an extra member and we're a slightly different format, but but same with bands like whoever Green Day or I think Kings of Leon are brothers, or most of them are brothers, and
or cousins or something like that.
Something like that. And lots of bands. Even the Rolling Stones, they must get along. It must be fun, because why else would they be together? And people could be cynical and say something about money, but there's that many bands out there that change members like they change socks. If there are bands that have stayed together for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they must be enjoying themselves and enjoying each other's company.
They must be doing something right, for sure.
Yeah. And some of those bands that I've seen who've been around for a long time, you notice it, and the audience feeds off it. And if you've ever been to a gig where the band's not having a good time, it's pretty noticeable normally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, and that can actually come through in recordings too, you know. And sometimes there's magic in that, like, you know, whatever Fleetwood Mac making Rumors while they're all, you know, their relationships are falling apart, but somehow feel the tension with this sort of perfect storm. But that's probably an exception to the rule because, you know, most of the time, if you're having a good time in the studio, then it reflects and it sounds great, you know, kind of thing. Whereas if everyone's, you know, having a bad time, then, you know, it's hard to be creative when you're not enjoying yourself. That's how I've always felt. So that's always come first for me.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose like if you are sort of a band on that tier, like if you are sort of like, you know, amongst the top entertainers in the world, of course, like the media can also play a massive role there. It's sort of spiking up rumors and all that crap. And that again actually helps you, that usually helps you get a lot of additional attention.
Well, that's right. Well, then you're banded together because it's us against them, sort of thing. So yeah, that you know, that definitely helps. And look, and I've experienced that too because you know, even in the most positive of communities, there's always going to be people who don't like you or don't like your music, and unfortunately, some of them are going to be really vocal about it. You know, we've had people deface our.
You always have the trolls.
Yeah, and even before there was internet trolls, we had people tearing down our posters or drawing on them or writing things on them and stuff like that and whatever. And now that obviously one of the unfortunate things about being so interconnected is that then everybody wants to voice their opinion, but you just have to accept that. Again, you know, chill out about it because you know the trolls want you to add fuel to the fire, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But sometimes, as you say, they can help, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I was about to say sometimes bad publicity is better than no publicity. If it comes down to that part of it, if it's a matter of sort of defacing a couple of posters or putting up some troll posts on like, oh, your music sucks and stuff. Well, let's open the conversation. You know what I mean?
Well, look, I don't want to get political, but hey, there are now people becoming presidents because any publicity is good publicity. That's all I'm going to say about that. But there's proof in the pudding of that that phrase.
100%.
Yeah, we're now living that. So.
Yep. I wanted to just quickly touch base on Stranger Than Fiction Records because I noticed you have a little Facebook page for that, and that's obviously your own record label.
Yeah.
How did that start?
So I guess the short answer is that nobody's ever signed me, so I signed myself. But basically, it comes back to that idea of the community aspect, and it's tied in with my studio. So I already I produced some drum tracks for a mate's project recently, which I'm going to play guitar on it as well. And that's called Empty Fish Tank. So look up Empty Fish Tank because his name's Anthony, but Empty Fish Tank is. Just great music. I've had the pleasure of being on one of the albums and now I'm going to be on another one. Yeah, cool. So I guess the idea for Stranger Than Fiction Records is that, look, I would really love to get into the sort of helping people with distribution and especially young artists who have no idea about how to, promote themselves, but also just how to start. Because I was a guitar teacher for some time and the biggest thing I found is that some people just didn't know how to start, even though a lot of other people like myself would say, well, it's easy, isn't it? But it doesn't always appear to be that way for everyone. It's not obvious to everyone. And sometimes people want to have some sort of, confidence from, well, I have a plan or I have, I at least have something to start with. So the whole idea is that it's about the community aspect of propping each other up and sharing each other's stuff. And, I really like the idea of, maybe making a few playlists, but also maybe in a few little sort of vinyl launch things, A-side, B-side things, because people buy vinyls again, which is great. There's a local record shop here in the Blue Mountains in Katoomba who previous to COVID, they were having vinyl launches for local artists.
Nice.
But it's unfortunately a very pricey thing to do. So I think what I would like to do here is, if we can share the costs of making some vinyls and things like that, and then, putting on split bill gigs together. We could obviously work on doing live stream stuff as well. That's something that I haven't looked too much into, but I think live stream gigs will be something that carries on for some time. So that's definitely something that's involved. But also my studio, I want to help people, record their stuff, because there's a couple of studios in the Blue Mountains. But the way that a studio should work, or the producer should work, is that what you're selling is yourself. And that if people like the way that my stuff sounds, and they like the fact that it has a bit of a live feel to it, and that it's not super duper polished or something like that, then they might want to work with me and produce and have me produce their music. And being a home studio, I have low overheads.
Exactly.
And look, if people want to sleep on the floor, or something like that, then, by all means, I really would like to, help people. And I've already had a few people say, hey, I love the isolation video, and I'd love for my band to come and do the same thing at your place, because the great thing is that it's a space, but all the mics and all the gear is ready to go here. So yeah, we can record a live thing of a band, be it for a film clip type thing, or whatever you want it to be, a live EP or something. So, I guess I just wanted it to be a bit of a community minded thing. And also there's something just cool about having the name associated, out now on Stranger Than Fiction Records or whatever. Like, it's just
for sure.
It just feels a bit cooler, and that, and then if there can be at least just a few of us to start the ball rolling, which there are, just to, do some gigs together, share the name and work with each other, creatively. And I'd love to get involved with some visual artists as well for album covers and things like that as well. I've got a big list of things I'd like to do with it. So that's just the starting point, really. And it's been a positive experience so far.
Well, again, a lot of the stuff you just mentioned there is actually good revenue for you to sort of, take you out or sort of minimize your bottle shop duties. If you could start shooting a couple of, if you could record some drums or record some bands or shoot some live session videos, at mates rates or whatever it is, sort of to get you off the ground and sort of to get, the like people talking. Then again, yeah, absolutely. Like if it is at your house, like you said, you got hardly any overheads, you might have a little bit of a power bill you need to up, but that's it. Other than that, people need to pay for your time. So that exactly. Just comes down to how much you value your time at.
Yeah, look, I really want to produce other people because I enjoy producing my own stuff, and I like the way that it sounds, and I've had some other people, as I said, talking to me about either my own music or the video that we did here, and that I'm selling my own sort of expertise there, and looked at I think the eventual aim is that I love working here, and working, the fact that I'm working from home is a bit of an added bonus as well. Absolutely. And during COVID, I've spent a bit more time here honing my craft and making this a nice, fun, inviting space. That's kind of the aim really, because it's an extension of what I do and what I love. So exactly. If I can make some sort of living out of it, then that's great. That's the dream, as they say. Mm. So but look, the bottle shop's good too. I'm not gonna if my boss is watching,
Again, yeah, you obviously I understand everybody needs a way to sort of pay the bills until you sort of, if that is the ambition to make music your full-time job, then obviously until you find out which avenues can sort of, vertically help you make that extra money. So if that's you doing a bit of live session over here, where you get some bands and they pay you, I don't know, $100 or something, you record a couple of songs, they have that as content, because that's ultimately what it is. It's that easy to create some content. If you're saying, if that was just you playing live for 3 songs, that would be 10-15 minutes worth, and then just a little bit of post-production, a little bit of video editing. Bang, up on YouTube, Facebook. Thanks for coming.
That's it. And I'm really lucky to have all this space at my disposal, and not everybody does, because I did live in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment in Melbourne where I couldn't make noise, and I had to go use a local studio to demo, and they would give me discounts because I was coming so often because I couldn't make noise in my own apartment, which is actually where I demoed the whole album, which was a bit of fun. It was actually nice being sort of forced to be creative, because, I'm at the studio today, I'm paying for time, I'm only here for 5 hours, make it count, sort of thing. Which is the only drawback of a home studio, is that you can get distracted with home life. But when I'm in here working and with a goal, I'm normally pretty focused. But, I know what it's like to not have those, have the perks of, especially all the gear as well. I've bought bits and pieces of gear over the years, and borrowed mics from other band members and friends and stuff, to help start it up. And I'm finally at a point now where I finally own most of the stuff in here. But it took some time. And, for a lot of people, they might not have all this stuff at their disposal, or they might not have just sunk as much time into the producing aspect, and they might just want someone else to do it, because I know what that's like too. So I'm just, I'd love to help in any way that I can.
Yeah, that's again another cool thing about sort of being able to do it yourself. You have sort of the option of sending stuff away, like you can record everything yourself, and you can flick it off to someone else to mix it. And again, to really optimize your time as well. If it is something that if you know it's going to take you a lot of time to mix it, then if someone who's really good at it, and someone else, you can just flick off the stems and bang, get someone else to sort of work on it remotely, which again it's a really fun conversation to have with bands as well, sort of to see how they approach the whole DIY recording stuff. But that's a whole different can of worms. We don't need to go into that. Sort of in regards to if you are sort of trying to, because I see we've been talking for almost 2 hours already. If we were to sort of just try and round it up, I can see there's a couple of questions here. We can come back to them in a second here. But if people out there would sort of like to keep up to date with Gavin and what Gavin is up to, where's sort of the main page that they should go to? Because I guess you actually got quite a few different platforms, and they all look pretty schmick. Like, and so you actually put some time and effort into the branding side of things. But where should people go to stay up to date?
So the best places would be my Facebook and my Instagram, because I post on them, pretty regularly. So Gavin Bowles Music is both handles. So Instagram, Gavin Bowles Music, Facebook, Gavin Bowles Music. But also if you go to gavinbowlesmusic.com, then that's got links to both, and it's got all my film clips on it, links to Spotify and YouTube as well. On Spotify, it's just under Gavin Bowles. But as I said, you'll find if you go to any one of those pages, you'll find links to the others basically. But Facebook and Instagram are the sort of main ones. And then and Strange and Fiction Records also has a Facebook and an Instagram as well.
Yep.
And I'm starting to post a little bit more on that. But for releases of my own material on Gavin Bowles Music, definitely. As I said, I've got a new single coming out within the next couple of weeks. I'm yet to sort of announce the date and figure all that out, but keep your eyes open.
So people should head over and give you a Facebook page a like, and that way, you'll get notified when the new video is out, and the album when it comes out around November-ish.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
So that's I'm a shameless self-promoter. So anytime there's something to promote, I'll be on there doing it.
But you have to. You have to. It's so important. Yeah. It's so important, man.
Yeah. For sure.
But you also, which I don't know if you mentioned that you also have a really cool YouTube page. Like there's actually quite a bit of clips in there for people if they want to check out your videos and your little live sessions as well.
Yeah, because we did those couple of isolation tracks. So we filmed a couple of tracks, and I cut them up and we released them over a period of weeks. And then there's the official film clips as well. So there's the Daily Grind and there's a Slave film clip as well. And then I did the little Teenage Kicks cover, which I might do more of those because it was a bit of fun. I got it all done in. I think I filmed it and mixed it in about 5 hours or something. So I might do another one or two of those if I got some other spare afternoons. But then there'll be another film clip coming out, obviously, and then we might do some more live stuff in the studio. We're figuring out what we want to do when the album comes out. We might do some more full band stuff. I did do a couple of live streams straight to my Facebook. I think they're actually still on my Facebook as well.
Okay.
So they were live to Facebook, and they're in my Facebook. If people want to watch them, there's a couple of half-hour long just solo live stream gigs. The kind of the popularity of the live stream gigs has kind of faded a bit now. I'm thinking I might do something else at some point, just figuring out, what's the best thing to do and when to do it, sort of thing.
I suppose in regards to sort of popularity of live streaming gigs and stuff, again, I suppose at the end it comes down to, is there an audience? Like, is there someone out there who would want? Because again, look, let's be honest, if Taylor Swift or all the other bigger names, if you put something on and you have an audience, of course they're going to tune in.
Of course.
It's definitely, I don't think that's going anywhere, live stream, because it's so convenient, and it allows you to connect with people in different parts of the world. Because again, like I'm sitting here in Perth and you're sitting in Blue Mountains. I could be right next door to you at the moment, or I could be in a complete different continent. It doesn't matter. It allows us to, as we spoke about earlier, to connect so easily.
For sure.
And as an artist, it's an easy, if playing live is what you're most passionate about, live stream gigs again would be so easy, especially like you actually have the whole setup. Like you have this little venue in your right behind you there. So if you got that set up with 3 or 4 cameras and just had a little bit of like a multi-angle automation system setting up there, like you could easily stream that and do a monthly show or something. Yeah.
Well, I did one. I did a couple that were just straight from my laptop because I didn't have any other way to figure it out. So I did maybe like 2 or 3 that were a bit rushed and just straight through the laptop, which was fine. I at least was going through my interface, so it sounded all right. But then I had a friend of mine who books a local venue. He actually came and he brought 3 iPhones and a live switch app. So we actually did do that thing here, and it turned out great. So we're toying with the idea of because there are some live gigs back, in limited capacity sort of ways. Yep. So for the album release, maybe I'm considering doing like a very a small audience album launch gig, but also filming it and live streaming it. That's an option that we can have. And look, we could even do it here. We could probably chat. It's a decent sized room. We could probably chuck a few family and friends in here and open a bottle or two of wine, and as long as we're all responsible and distance and whatever.
Yeah. Do a little intimate show there.
Yeah, look, I'd really love that idea. I'd like that. Because as you say, I think the live streams aren't going anywhere, and I think that they do have a lot of really positive aspects to them. Unfortunately, at the time, a couple of months ago, it was all just very rushed, and the technology and the platforms and the willingness to do it all were all just not quite joining at the same time. Especially because there are other platforms other than Facebook and Instagram that are perhaps a little bit better built for some of this stuff. But, I navigated my way through the Facebook thing, but say for Instagram, because you can't do a live stream on anything but your phone, because it's really a phone app. And then it's pretty tricky to figure out audio, for something like Instagram. So, I think we'll probably see a lot more, development on the live stream side of things. Which would be a good thing, because it is a really handy tool, and whatever, even if you just want to do a couple of songs, it doesn't have to be a full set, just a couple of songs or something like that. Or,
absolutely.
Whatever. So I'd be happy to do.
It's all content, if there is fans out there who wants to try and connect with you and your music, all it is, you're just feeding the crowd. Here you go. Here's a little bit extra stuff to look at or check out.
Yeah, so, for sure.
Yeah.
And I liked I also had real time comments. I could see, the amount of people watching, which was nice. And I actually had some neighbors of mine who were doing a drinking game while I was playing. So every time I took a drink, and every time I did a guitar lick or something, they had a drink. So that was a bit of fun. It was good. I was still getting heckled by my friends, even in isolation, even in the live stream. So it was good to keep that going.
Maybe that'd be a whole new business plan for you there. Have a live stream drinking game. You can connect it into the bottle shop.
That's right. Could I don't know. There'd be some things to jump around that, I'm sure, with RSA, responsible drinking, all that kind of thing.
There'd be some.
Might be a bit hard to monetize.
Yeah,
but it's definitely a bit of fun in there. So
cool, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Another thing I usually ask anyone on the show about is if you have any sort of tips or tricks, any good advice, anything that's worked for you in the past that you would like to pass on to any other bands, artists, or anyone out there listening.
Yeah, look, just have fun is obviously the main one, and we already sort of talked about that.
Yeah.
But really try to make it your own. If you're doing a cover of someone, if the aim is to make it sound like the song, then that's great. But you should always be putting yourself into whatever you're doing. Even if you are making music that you want to be commercially viable or something like that, you can still do it in a, there's the proof's out there. There's many people making songs that are, very commercial and radio friendly, etc. But the personality of the person who made it has come through. So no matter what you're doing, just make it your own. I guess that would be kind of my only advice. And as I said before, ask for help. Your friends and your family are always going to be there to lend a hand or lend an ear, and and share your stuff or come to a gig or whatever, and that really is invaluable. Yeah. I'm really indebted to my family and friends for all their support over the years. The amount of gigs that they've come to is just, ridiculous. I'm surprised that they still want to listen to my music and see my face, because they've come to so many, and so I truly am still blown away, and I don't use the word blessed very often, but blessed. So that don't be afraid to ask for help, and to and appreciate those people who come and listen and all that, because it's it still kind of blows my mind, people listening to music and and you know, and if someone gives you a compliment, they mean it. People don't give compliments if they don't, you know, mean it.
No, it's for whatever reason. For whatever reason, it's a lot harder to give a compliment than it is to back someone, if especially if it's online. But it's it really, if somebody walks up to you and saying, "I really appreciate your music," that is they are serious, man.
Yeah, for sure, and I you know, I always appreciate it. I really do. You know, they might be a few beers deep and they might be, you know, slurring a bit at a gig or something, but if they say it, they mean it.
It's honest. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, they're probably more honest.
I was just about to say it's brutally honest.
Yes. I've definitely had that. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Let's try and jump over and grab a couple of questions here.
Yeah.
So we've got one here from Gavin Bowles. Could be a relative of yours.
Yeah, that's mom. Yep, that's mom.
There you go. She says, "Who's your favorite musician?"
That's a loaded question. I would say that it's either a tie between Billy Joe from Green Day, because I do really like all the stuff he does outside of Green Day as well.
Oh yeah.
There's a project called The Long Shot. He made an album under the name The Long Shot 2 years ago, which is awesome. And then he did an album with Norah Jones a couple of years ago, which was really, really good too. Either him or Elvis Costello. Just his output is incredible. He's touched almost every genre, and somehow it still sounds like him. And you know, I saw him live a couple of times. He did these 3-hour shows in a 3-piece suit, sweated through the whole thing. But he also loves to tell a story. You know, he tells a couple of stories in between songs, how they were written or where he was for that, and he also plays a lot of covers as well, which a lot of artists at his stature don't often do, or maybe afraid to do, or think that it, you know, that they're past that or something. But he plays a lot of covers and always kind of, and sometimes of artists that are really obscure, and he kind of says, "Hey, go check out this artist," which I really admire. But look, both artists, they have incredible output. They've been doing it for a long time, and I have big respect for both of them as songwriters and musicians and performers. So I'll have to say a tied answer, I guess.
Yeah, excellent. Then we've got another one here. What's your style, Gavin? What do you play? I'm assuming that's probably related to your music style.
Yeah. So I mentioned before the phrase or the genre power pop. So I really like that. I don't write, 7-minute Bohemian Rhapsody style songs. Not that there's anything wrong with them. I love listening to them, but I just don't really write those kind of songs. I've always loved the challenge of creating something exciting within 3 or 3.5 to 4 minutes. I guess I like the sort of old adage that you want the audience you want to leave them with wanting more kind of thing, maybe. But yeah, just it's high energy rock music. It's upbeat. There's influences of rockabilly and punk rock and that kind of thing. But for me, it's always high energy and it's always upbeat. And I guess that's the style. I'm going to say power pop if I can.
Power pop, good one. Love it. And what about? So I had this one sort of sent in earlier. It was have you got a bucket list concert that you'd like to play? Is there any, like, your biggest gig?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not a huge venue, but being a Sydney boy, I've been to many concerts at the Enmore Theatre. And it's a lovely old theater. I love the stage and the room. And I've seen some of my favorite artists there. So maybe more for a sentimental kind of thing. I'd really love to play the Enmore Theatre. I don't particularly have an interest in playing like Sydney Cricket Ground or something like that. In fact, normally the sound's pretty terrible in such a large place, so that doesn't really do much for me. But I do like the Enmore Theatre, and I feel like there was another. There might have been a place. I like the Corner in Melbourne, that kind of place. You know, again, there's just been a lot of great bands go through a place like that. And then maybe, you know, you got to throw in something from, you know, one of those sort of old school places in London or something. You know, the Brixton Academy or wherever those places are, or the Rainbow. I don't even know if they're all still there, but all those places where all those rock, punk rock, and you know, like Bob Marley, you know, played there and stuff. Like, I'd even just like to see a gig there, but to play on those stages would be pretty unreal. You know, to know that whatever, you know, the Clash was there or something, that'd be pretty crazy.
Mm. So overseas, would that be something that would be on a bucket list as well, to do a tour?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really love to. I know some bands that have done some European tours, and Canada as well. And, you know, they have really great scenes, especially, and then in the US, you know, you've kind of got like the college circuit, which we don't really have here in Australia. So I'd really kind of like to, you know, experience that. Yeah, I would love to. So it might be some time, but it's just time to plan, I guess.
It's all about that online promotion, isn't it?
Yeah, I could do a couple of live streams, you know, first.
Reaching out,
see if they want me.
Then we've got another one here. It's how long have you been performing for? I suppose there might be sort of two aspects to it, because you were playing in your band for about 12, 13 years. But how long have you been playing as Gavin Bowles, or performing?
Yeah, so I mean, I've only really been a solo artist in that regard for. I mean, I did a couple of solo gigs while I was in the band, where I started playing material that the band wasn't playing, probably around 2015, 2016. And then, as I said, like, you know, doing the sort of covers thing to pay the bills, probably from that time as well. So yeah, probably about 5 years as a solo artist. But yeah, the band started, you know, as I said, when we finished high school, really started getting into the swing of things and playing gigs pretty constantly when we finished high school. So yeah, 12 years, you know, kind of, you know, at least, you know, to start off with, in those first couple of years, we were at least doing a gig every month or something. So yeah, since then, but yeah, if you count the talent show in year 5, then, you know, whatever, since I was 10 or 11.
They all tally up.
They definitely do. They definitely do. I remember it. I remember it pretty well. I had the bad gelled hair at the front, and the guitar. I had my Strat copy with the stickers on it. I think I had a Mambo shirt, something like that. Sounds very early 2000s.
Fantastic, man. That's wicked. Look, it's been super cool, man, to hear about all your stories, man. And I really like what you're doing with that home studio, and sort of like your visions for there, and, you know, do like try and record a couple of local bands, and some more video footage there, maybe some live streams. Never know.
Yeah, for sure. It's all going to happen. It's all going to happen right here.
And really exciting to hear about the upcoming album and the new video release. So people should head over to Facebook and check out Gavin Bowles' music.
Yeah,
and obviously on Instagram, YouTube, and the other platforms as well. Bandcamp. I don't know if you mentioned that. You obviously have your Bandcamp up and running there as well.
Bandcamp, yep. And obviously it's on like Apple Music and all of that as well. SoundCloud as well. I don't know how many people use SoundCloud these days, but Bandcamp's great. I really love Bandcamp. They do a lot of great stuff for artists as well. So yeah, just even if it's not to support me, support Bandcamp, because they're great. But yeah, all of the links to all of those things are through. You'll find them through my Facebook or Instagram, but gavinbowlesmusic.com as well has everything in it as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah, likewise, chat. Man. Yeah, absolutely. We should we could do one again by when the album comes out. Have a chat about future ambitions, and we might have done a couple of more live streams and concerts and stuff. So
that'd be great. I'd be happy to talk about all that and the album and everything. That'd be lovely. Yeah,
absolutely, man. On that note, we're gonna finish off on one of your other singles, but this is in the live format we were talking about earlier. Yep. So Apartmentality. Maybe you could just introduce that before we put it on. I love the title.
Thank you. Well, I was just about to say a few people have been struggling with how to say it. So well done for because that's a made up word. So patent pending. When I was mentioning before, when I was living in the little 1-bedroom apartment in Melbourne, and I couldn't really make noise, neighbors upstairs, downstairs, next door, and the guy next door particularly was a very fussy sort of old fella, and one of the first things he said to us was, I miss the old neighbors because they don't make noise, sort of thing. So I used to go to the it was a good how do you do, So I didn't feel comfortable making noise at home. And so I used to go to the little studio and write songs and demo. And as I said, that was a great experience. It ended out, like being a really creative time for me. But, this is probably one of I think, as I said before, Slave was the first song I sort of wrote, but I think this one might've been the second or third one that I wrote. And it was just about that feeling of being a bit boxed in the city and just sort of, money was a bit tight at the time, so there's that aspect, and I think that thing that a lot of young people feel in the city, that sort of urban lifestyle. This is great. There's so much to go out and do, but I've got no money. It's how great is this? But I can only really afford to go out, a little bit, or you know what I mean. And it's that kind of juxtaposition. Of living in the city without much money, but trying to make the best of the situation, and and it's a little bit of a love letter to my wife as well, just that because we were in that situation together. So and so that's and then I decided to make up a word to I think it's great. It's great how you sort of merged the two together. Fantastic. And then the clip's done live here in the studio with my out. So my brother Simon on drums, Cameron on bass, and Wesley on keyboards. So when we get back to gigging live, that's the band, and they're the best bunch of dudes I could ever hope for. It's always fun playing together, and and I'm glad that we got to do the little video for it because it was good fun and gets to show them off.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell on the clip, it looks like you guys are having fun. I watched the other two videos from the same session as well. It looks like it was a cool little session. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, we did a couple covers as well, and they were good fun. So thank you.
What's the one from the 101 Dalmatians?
We did Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, I always forget her name, but it's a good song, man. Good version of it as well.
Thank you. It's probably one of my favorite songs to play. It's a really silly song, but it's just great. It's just good. It's just good fun, and it kind of takes you back. Yeah, watching all the old school Disney movies.
Yeah. And again, made it your own. So
that's it. Yeah, of course. Yep. Yeah, very much so.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Gavin. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Stephen.
Really enjoyed it. And also just for people listening to this here, you actually have done a proper video clip for this song as well. So they can head over to YouTube and check that out as well. Everything on the YouTube. Yep. Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Gavin. Enjoy the rest of your evening at your end, I suppose. But I'll
getting that way.
Yeah, exactly. I'll chat to you soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.